Hello! Oh, there's a drum roll.
Drum roll. Hello, everybody.
Hello, guys. Welcome to Ask a Reporter. Thank you so much for joining us today. For those who don't know, but you probably do, I'm Amelia.
And I'm Joe.
And we are BTN.
Yes,
Plus
this
a whole
is
bunch
BTN.
of other people behind us.
Oh, no, just us.
Forget them.
Just
We're
us.
the hardest working team here because we're with you today. But no, it's always a pleasure being here and hanging out with you for the next half hour, or just under because we're a bit late, although we always go over anyway. If you're a regular Ask a Reporter viewer, you know that. You're used to it. Feel free to come and go as you please, but hopefully you stay for the whole 30 minutes. And we have lots of questions as always. So let's jump into it first. Joe, do you want to tell us what your story was about?
Yes, so the story this week was about the Parkes Radio Telescope. Some of you might know what it is, but if you don't, basically it's a huge telescope in New South Wales. It's Australia's, and actually the Southern Hemisphere's, most prominent space research piece of technology. Did that make sense?
I think so. Yeah, say it again.
It's Australia's most prominent piece of space research tech.
Yes. No, that makes sense.
There we go.
I got it. Second time round.
Yeah. I didn't quite word that right. Anyway, yes, so it's been around, this year was 60 years of service. So, we did a recap on what it's done, why it's important.
Yeah.
And
it is important. That's basically what you were saying with the Australia's thingy sentence. This is really important.
Yeah, basically. Without it, we
it's a
wouldn't
cool
know
thing.
many things. And, as we'll discuss a bit later, we wouldn't have seen the moon landing.
Yes, which we will talk about soon. Yeah. All right, so let's jump into some questions, Joe, because we've got lots for you. Okay. All right. Bryce from Longwarry Primary School says, how far can the telescope reach?
Well,
that's a really good question to kick
that is a really
with,
good question.
because I don't know the answer. But I imagine quite far.
Quite far. Well, because the way they describe it is, they say it's like asking someone, how far can you hear something? It depends on how loud the noise is. And so in the past, in 1982, I believe, they discovered signals from 20 billion light years away. So
sounds far.
It's a long way. It depends on how loud the signal is. So 20 billion light years away is the furthest that they've discovered anything. But usually it's within about 100 light years.
That was a really good way of what? 100 light years.
Of where we are.
Of New South Wales. It's a really good way of describing it, Joe. Like that, it's like how far can you hear? It depends how loud the thing is.
Yeah, it depends how loud the noise is.
Yeah, the noise is. Because it is, of course, a radio telescope.
Yes. And everything in the universe makes radio noise.
Yeah, right.
And depending how loud that is, depends on whether it gets picked up or not.
So cool. Okay, I have a couple of homeschoolers asking questions. So I have Jessie. How wide is the dish and how does it swivel around?
So the
dish, of course, being the nickname.
Yes.
For the Parkes telescope.
Yes, and it's called the dish because it looks like a dish. Pretty creative. Yeah. So the dish,
to the point.
The dish itself is 64 meters wide, which that's bigger than an Olympic swimming pool. It's pretty huge.
It's pretty big.
And it swivels around so basically the base is like a big concrete building, and then on the top is the dish. It has like a ring with huge metal gears in it.
Do we have a shot that we could pull up? Yeah, we'll work on that. Yeah.
With huge metal gears on the top that can slowly pivot around. It doesn't move quickly because it does weigh a lot, but slowly but steadily it points. They can point it wherever they want in the sky. That's how they pick up so many different signals.
So Joe, did you know I've actually been to Parkes in New South
Wales
and seen the telescope?
Yeah.
So I think that was in what year was it? 2018?
I think so.
2018, 2019, so a few years ago now, and we hosted an entire show, 2019, an entire BTN episode from Parkes in New South Wales, and it was all about the moon landing. So we'll come back to that and we'll talk a bit more about it. But yes, I have seen it, and 64 metres, it is big.
Yeah.
It is really big.
I imagine seeing it in person would be a lot more impressive than the pictures. I'm sure, as with most things, pictures don't do it justice, but... Yeah.
It's cool.
And when it's pointing straight up, that's how they stow it when they're not using it. Because if it was in any other direction, if it got too windy, it could risk blowing the whole structure over.
Yeah. And we did I did stand near it when it was moving and went inside as well. It was a really cool experience, actually. It was really awesome because most of the time I don't think the general public are really going inside, except when maybe they have like tours or something now and then. But
I do believe you can go and visit it. I'm not sure if you can go into it.
Yeah. Oh yes, you can definitely go and visit it. They have like a museum.
Oh yes.
And especially at that time, there was a lot about the moon landing and things like that. And they have like a video you can watch and a gift shop.
Yeah.
I remember I bought a patch for my jacket. I haven't actually put on it. You know, like iron-ons? Yeah. I thought I'd start collecting those, but so far I've just got parks in New South Wales. COVID ruining my travels. But yeah, it is really impressive. Let us know if you have been to parks in New South Wales and if you have visited the Dish.
And anyone in New South Wales, make sure you check it out because I'd love to see it. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. All right, we're getting some more questions through now too. Okay, so Sarah from Cororoit Creek Primary School, hey Cororoit Creek, says, is it still used, and if so, for what?
Yes, it's still operational. It's operational 24/7. At the moment, it gets contracted by different organisations around the world use the telescope. They can
remotely.
Connect it. Yeah, so one cool thing over the years as they've upgraded it is that they've pretty much, you can connect to it via an internet connection. So universities and organisations around the world who study astronomy, if they want to use the telescope, they can. They can connect to it wherever they are, whether they're at home, in their institution, and they can control it, point it wherever they like, receive the data, and make their own discoveries using that telescope.
It's really cool, yeah. So a lot of the inside of the telescope, like the base, it has lots of, old school panels and things like that, which we'll show you in a little bit when I will go to an interview that I did when I was there. But yeah, it's really interesting. It's all really old and there's lots of stuff, but none of it's really used anymore because, like Joe said, you can just have a laptop. And so they're just kind of computers and like no one's really in there. Whereas back, in 1969 when the moon landing happened, you would have probably had several people inside, like at least 4 people or 5 people in there working away, and would have been this really tense moment. And it's a cool story.
And computers back then were huge. Everything's downscaled so much now.
Huge computers. Yeah. So really cool. Okay, so Joe, I've got a really good question here from Husna and Amira from Blaxall Street. No, I don't know. Public school street. I think that, I don't know, ST full stop. Anyway, well, let's not dwell on it. Does the telescope take pictures as well as detect sound? Husna and Amira. That's a good question.
That is a good question because when people hear telescope, as John said in my piece I did for BTN, when people hear telescope, they think it's something that you look through with your eyes. But this telescope, no. This only picks up radio waves, which come through on a screen in the building, just as a wave, basically. And astronomers study those waves, and basically from that they can tell more than just by looking at it, because the human eye, we can't see all of the colours in the universe. We can only see actually quite a small amount. I think we have an example. There we go. So of all the colours in the universe, that's the whole spectrum there. That tiny little slither, that's what we can see. But the telescope can pick up everything else. And so
this actually relates to Bianca's question from Horizon Christian School, who wondered, how does the telescope pick up the radio signals, Joe?
Basically, as I said earlier, everything in the universe emits radio signals of some sort, of varying loudness. So the dish being so huge with its panels and its... The way John described it, because it is quite complex.
It's tricky.
It is, but the way John, who operates the telescope, the way he described it to me was, it's basically a glorified radio antenna. So the way a radio antenna in a car would pick up a radio signal and convert that into sound that we hear, this picks up signals from space as they shoot into the atmosphere to Earth, and then translates that into a little wavelength that gets studied. And
so interesting.
it is. It's all very complicated.
It is complicated. It's really cool, though.
It is.
Okay, so can we talk a little bit about? Did we sort of mention what it's being used for? Because we said yes, it's still being used, but what's it being used for? Because look, I'll come back to that question. But I'm just wondering.
So, I mean, currently it's, as of right now, I think it's just being used for general observations. But coming up in the next year or so, well, from next year, NASA is going to be using it to help track spacecraft going back to the moon.
How cool is that?
Yes, as part of NASA's Artemis program, they're sending a bunch of unmanned spacecraft to the moon.
Yes.
And the telescope's going to be helping with that.
So this relates to Laura's question. Laura Homeschool said, how will the Parkes telescope help to send astronauts to the moon?
Yes. So, the telescope will... Well, back in 1969, when the first moon landing happened, it tracked the... It got data from... Is that correct?
I can't quite remember.
Yeah.
Finish your sentence and I'll tell you.
There was data from the spacecraft that was... The telescope received data from the spacecraft and also pictures, images.
Yeah, you're right.
So when they started the camera, when they did the moon landing, the telescope picked that up and then relayed it to NASA headquarters, I believe, which then got broadcast
across the world. Yes.
So in the future, it'll do pretty much the same thing. It'll track data from the spacecraft and relay that to NASA headquarters, who will do what they please with it. But essentially, it's kind of like the middleman between the spacecraft and NASA. And
that's where the pictures come into it, so it can seem a bit confusing. But I did this interview with the same guy that you spoke to, John Sarkisian. He's an awesome guy from Parkes. And so do you want to have a watch of this interview that I did?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can hopefully learn a little bit more about the moon landing and what the telescope does now. I'm standing right inside the Parkes telescope in the control room, and I'm here with John Sarkisian, who is the CSIRO operations scientist here at Parkes. John, it's very noisy in here. Clearly the telescope is doing something. What's it working on right now?
That's right. We're actually observing with it, and we have astronomers in California, near San Francisco at Berkeley University, and they're scanning the skies looking for evidence of intelligent civilization. So it's extremely exciting what we're doing here. We also do much more. Some of the great discoveries of the telescope include the first discovery and identification of quasars. They're the most distant known objects in the universe. We also study pulsars. Pulsars are the very dense, compact remains of massive stars that have exploded. It's actually a major area of research at the telescope, and we've discovered more pulsars than all the other radio telescopes in the world combined.
So obviously the Dishes story didn't end with Apollo 11 then?
No, it didn't. In fact, the Parkes telescope supported all the manned lunar landing missions, but the most critical one was Apollo 13. When the oxygen tank exploded while they were en route to the moon, it crippled the spacecraft, and NASA needed the Parkes telescope, its great sensitivity, to detect the very weak signals that was being transmitted from the spacecraft, and they were able to use that and analyse the problem and help save the mission and ensure that the astronauts returned safely to the Earth. Other missions we've supported since then have been, for example, the Curiosity rover when it landed on Mars a few years ago. That was really exciting. It only lasted 7 minutes, but everything worked beautifully, and when it landed we were all very, very happy and celebrated. It was great. And just a few months ago, we also tracked the Voyager 2 spacecraft as it was leaving the solar system and moving into interstellar space.
And so what are you hoping the telescope is going to be able to do for, say, the next 50 years?
Well, the telescope has a great history of discovery and of scientific achievement. We have great plans for the future also. We're commissioning new radio receivers that'll make it even more efficient. We're trialling new types of receivers too that allow us to see more of the sky at the same time, so we can do surveys that'll hopefully discover new objects, things that we're not even aware of at the moment. And that's the great excitement. That's why we love doing the radio astronomy.
Amazing. Well, hey, I don't know about you, but I'm hanging out for that alien life to be discovered, so you never know.
Well, I promise you, if we find something, you'll be one of the first to know, along with 7 billion other people. So.
All right. Thanks, John.
No worries.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that notice.
Yes, haven't had the phone call
John,
yet.
remember me. So, Joe, speaking of aliens, right? Let's talk a little bit about that because I saw a question here from Liam from Ryde East Public School who said, can it detect aliens?
Well, with the amount of signals it can pick up, yes, basically. And over the years, they have had some interesting, unexplained signals.
You mentioned some in your story.
I did, yes. And John explained to me that a lot of the time they can trace it back to somewhere, a man-made signal just from on Earth. And back in 2015, actually, there were some people using the telescope who used a microwave while they were doing some observations, and that picked up a signal that, hey, hello.
Oh, wow, we found them, John.
Oh, we didn't need the telescope
already.
after all. Here they are.
What? Welcome. Do you come in peace? That one's weird.
I wasn't expecting that.
There's a lot of them. They almost... that was terrifying. They almost look like BTN reporters.
They almost look like I'd forgive you for thinking they were. Yeah. So,
yes. I love that mask. So good.
It is. It's
You get real
really
sweaty in there, though.
creepy.
It is hot in there. It's
And
really
it smells
creepy.
a bit funny because it's
does,
latex.
yeah.
But anyway.
Moving on.
Moving on.
From our alien friends.
Yes, it has the potential to pick up aliens. They haven't as yet, but they are actually part of a program at the moment that Stephen Hawking launched back in 2015 called the Breakthrough Listen Initiative.
Yes.
And so, that's another thing that's being used for currently. They're listening for any radio waves that could potentially be aliens trying to speak to
Legit.
us or just doing whatever they do out in space.
Yes, and just recently, is this correct? I remember hearing a news story just recently where they had been investigating something that sounded a little bit like it could be potentially some alien life, and they were looking into it, and there was research done into it, and finally this study unfortunately found that no, it wasn't. I'm not sure what they ended up working out it was, but it wasn't, unfortunately.
Yeah, they did trace it back to a source on Earth. It was just a man-made source, but yes, apparently it's quite
shame.
frequent. They do come up with these faint, weird radio signals, but over the years they've developed technology to trace it back to exactly where it came from. And yeah, for the most part, it is just man-made signals or sudden radio bursts from deep out in space, which can apparently quite common.
Just happen naturally.
They just happen naturally.
Right.
Yeah. Nothing that's
Not that aliens aren't natural. I mean,
that's true.
they're out there. Hey,
they're out there. That's
Yeah.
in the natural universe
That's it.
somewhere.
That's
John did say that they are out there. It's just a matter of finding.
It's just a
them.
matter of finding them.
Yep.
Oh, John. That's a controversial comment from John.
Yeah. Well,
Some people don't agree.
some people don't agree,
think
but
they may have existed and no longer do, or they don't exist at all.
I mean-
but I like to think they do. Do you?
I do too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the size of the universe, the galaxy, everything. Somewhere out there's got to be something that, whether it looks like this or
Yes.
not. Hopefully it doesn't, because this doesn't actually look that nice, does it?
Doesn't really.
Not really. But
I mean, we probably look pretty weird to an alien.
that's true. To an alien, we probably well.
Have you ever thought how weird fingers are?
Yeah.
Putting
it's
it
true.
out there. And if you've ever seen a rhinoceros, I mean, they are weird.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of
I'm just
creatures on
saying.
Earth that are really weird, aren't they? They
Yeah.
just don't make
when
sense.
you start thinking about it,
Yeah.
you start going, wow, if I came to Earth, I would be like weirded out by humans.
Oh yeah, and like
We're a
anteaters
bit
and stuff.
like sweaty and sticky and we're weird. We're really weird.
Got a fluffy bit on the top and
I
then not
know,
here.
we're so strange.
How does that work?
I don't know. If I was an alien, I'd be like, "Tch, I'm heading back to my cool planet.
Well, maybe that's why we haven't found them yet. Who knows?
Yeah, they're like, those guys are a bit gross.
Yeah. But yes, time will tell.
Time will tell. Time will tell. Okay, let's see. Charlie from St. Joseph's, Corinda says, why is the dish so big? 64 metres, he said. Was it 64 metres? Did I get that right?
Yes, 64 meters. That is
Why
correct.
is it so big? Joe? Why do they need it to be so big?
So it can pick up bigger radio waves that, as I said before, we can only see a certain slither of the waves that are out there. But a huge dish can pick up bigger waves, which from huge undiscovered galaxies and planets out in the cosmos somewhere, they'll be emitting huge waves that, we would need a big dish like that to pick up. And actually in Australia, there's a new... it's kind of, I don't know what it's called. It's the...
This relates actually to what you're about to say. Noah from Beaumont Hills Public School says, in Australia, are there going to be more space telescopes in the future? Is that what you were about to talk about?
Yes, that is exactly what I was about to talk about.
There you go, Noah.
Thank you, Noah. What was it, sorry? The
Square kilometre array.
The Square Kilometre Array is what it's called.
Array.
So basically it's a whole bunch of telescopes. Antennas, similar to what the Parkes one is, on a lot smaller, but a lot of them. And yeah, that'll help.
That's a really interesting way of doing it. That's so different to having like one huge thing that you have to build and maintain. Instead, you have lots of small telescopes, which would probably be just as big as the Parkes one, I imagine.
Yeah, it'd pick up just as much, if not more. But
and the direction, I believe, can be changed more easily as well.
Yeah.
You're not having to have that a huge mechanical turn, you know.
Yep. You can change direction quicker, easier. Repairs are cheaper, easier, smaller. It's all just a bit more efficient.
And of course, we now have a space agency. So hopefully, in the future, we'll have a lot more space action in Australia. It's going to be it's going to be really, really fun to see. Like
I find space so fascinating.
Me too. Me too. You are all growing up in a really exciting time, I reckon, for space exploration.
Yep.
So it's going to be a cool few decades. Okay, cool. So let's see. I don't know if you know how long it took to build, but I'm just going to ask you anyway. Isla from Blaney Public School says, how many years exactly did the Parkes telescope take to build?
Well, the Parkes telescope, from when it was first proposed and designed to when it was finished, was 5 years. Which
5 years,
actually isn't that long.
It's not that long, really.
Yeah, when we're talking about something of this magnitude. Yeah. So it was back in the 40s and 50s. I mentioned this in my story as well. There was a astrophysicist from the CSIRO called Dr. Edward George Bowen.
Oh yes, let me wait, because I just love jumping in with other people's questions so we can answer as many as possible.
They all fit together.
Hudson from Corright Primary School says, when was it created?
So, the exact year of when the idea was kind of born, I'm not too sure, and it was late 50s or mid 50s. And
someone else was asking, I'll find them in a second, who created it.
Yes.
Which is what you were getting to, sorry.
Yeah. So up until then, radio astrology, it was a thing, but they were only using radio telescopes made out of old wartime equipment. So they were a lot smaller and they weren't as sensitive. They couldn't pick up as much. And Australia and the UK were the leading lights in radio astrology. And so the UK decided that they wanted to build a big radio telescope so they could discover more and stay right at the forefront of new discoveries. And Australia, Dr. Edward George Bowen from the CSIRO said, we want to do that in Australia too. We want to stay ahead of the curve. And so the proposal was put forward. The CSIRO at the time didn't have the funding to do it. So they had to go fishing around a lot to get funding. They went to the UK. I think the UK put in a bit of money. The US, an institute in California.
To build it. All of this, wow.
Yep. And then the Aussie government too did put some money in. And eventually it was all put together. And by 1961, after 5 years of development, it was opened October 31st, 1961.
Oh, good memory.
There it is.
I imagine it must have cost a lot. I don't know what it would have cost back then compared to what it would be now.
I didn't even get an exact dollar figure.
If you're going to have to go around to different countries to help with funding, it's probably going to have cost a lot. And the person who asked was Gwen from North Sydney Demonstration School, said who invented it. So there you go, Gwen. So interesting, Joe. You've got a good... You're remembering all the facts that I don't remember, even though I've been there. You've learned a lot. It's good. It's good.
In fairness, it was a few years ago that you went there.
That's true.
My story was
true.
only
Thanks,
last week.
Joe. Thanks, Joe. Okay, cool. Let me see. Do you know how many dishes there are in Australia? Oh, sorry, Cororoit Primary School. You've asked so many good questions. I keep going to you. That's from Akshita at Cororoit. Do you know how many dishes there are in Australia? Well, is the dish the only?
Well, I
like,
think that's the only one that's kind of referred to as the dish.
Oh, right, but there are others.
There are others, yeah.
Canberra?
I think there's three main dishes.
There are.
So there's
I don't know why I
Parkes,
forgot that for
there's
a
one
second.
in Canberra, and there's another.
Somewhere else.
I think it's in New
there
South
is another
Wales.
one. Yeah, I think
there's
it's also
another
in New South Wales.
Yeah,
I
they're
think
all
you're right.
relatively close to each other.
Yeah.
Australia and New South Wales is actually a prime spot for this telescope. The reason why, actually, it is in Parkes is because where we are, we're on the Earth's tilt. Basically, we are right under the Milky Way. In Parkes and stuff, rural New South Wales, there isn't a lot of man-made radio signals, or at least there wasn't when it was first built. So that's why it's in a more rural area and not in a city like Sydney or something like that. But yeah, as modern technology has evolved and everyone has radio signals, it is picking up more. But it's still where it is relatively radio silent, I think they call it.
So that's why you build a telescope quite far out or somewhat far away, like you're not building it right next to Sydney kind of thing.
Yeah.
I see. And that is also, I find this story that we heard before as well about, and you included in your story, Joe, about the microwave really confusing, because you just think you'd be able to work that out really quickly.
Yeah.
But it shows that if you are getting unusual interference, you might, the people interpreting the information from the Parkes telescope might struggle to work out what it is and get a bit confused. But I mean, they eventually work it out because they research and do lots of study. But it's pretty interesting because it was just someone in the kitchen.
In the staff kitchen using the
staff
microwave.
Kitchen.
And as I was reading more into it, I found out that there was even a warning note on the microwave saying, like, while you're doing observations here, don't use this microwave because it'll pick up.
If you tried to put a note on the BTN microwave saying, don't use this, I guarantee everyone's ignoring that / not even seeing it.
Yeah. So
nice try,
exactly
Parkes.
the same situation.
Nice try. Okay, I don't know if you know this, Joe, but hey, we're all learning together. Kane from Illaroo Road Public School. Kane says, does rain affect the telescope? Is it weather? I don't know.
Actually, no, it's not.
Oh, okay,
it's not
cool.
weather dependent. I mean, if it is too windy, they can't use the telescope. It has to be stored upright, otherwise it could blow over. So if the weather's really bad, then they can't use it. But cloud cover, rain, that doesn't affect it because think of the radio waves as like as a Wi-Fi. So we can't see Wi-Fi, but it can travel through the walls of your house. Your computer can see it.
Yes.
We can't. Same with these radio waves. It'll travel through the clouds. It'll travel through walls.
Yes, of course. That makes so much sense. When you think about it like that.
Think of it like a Wi-Fi signal.
Yes, although now and then, I mean, I live in a place with 3 different stories. So when I go down to the bottom level, sometimes my Wi-Fi is not working quite as well.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi drops out. I got to be honest. I go upstairs in my house and there's areas where it's a bit patchy, but I think radio waves from the cosmos might be a bit stronger than any from my Wi-Fi router.
You're right, Joe. You're
Maybe.
right. I don't know. Got to upgrade that Wi-Fi router.
Well, I better go talk to my Wi-Fi supplier.
Your internet provider.
Yeah, my internet provider. Wi-Fi supplier? What is that?
Wi-Fi supplier? Who are you?
No, I don't know. Anyway.
All right, I'm going to do some really quick shout-outs and then we've got to roll and leave you guys to get back to class. Okay, so Tom from St Gregory Primary, in no particular order, I'm just picking random people. They said, can you please give a shout-out to my family? I would love it. So there you go, Tom. Okay, let's see who... St Mary Magdalene's Parish School in Chadstone, Victoria. Hope you're enjoying some freedom, Victorians. Oxford Falls Grammar. A few homeschools. I've got Kevin, it's at homeschool. Fig Tree Public School. Croydon Hills Primary School. Horizon Christian School. Annandale North Primary School and Moana Primary School. And Wheaton-Jarrah. I'll chuck Wheaton-Jarrah Primary School in Canberra in there too. Oh, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Now, if you do want to see a little bit more of the Parkes telescope and understand a bit more about its history, including the moon landing, the Apollo 11 mission in 1969, then make sure you check out our BTN special. You saw a little bit of it today. That was where I was interviewing John Sarkisian. So if you like, you can go and check that out because we did a whole episode on it. And it's lots of fun. I love seeing old moon landing stuff and like kids watching TV back in the 60s. You had a little bit of
all of that
in
old,
your story too.
Yes, all that old archival footage. It's there's something really interesting about it.
I agree.
So,
in fact, you went back to the 60s in your story. You were in the 60s. I don't know how
50s.
you did that.
Well,
50s,
actually,
sorry.
50s originally and then
60s.
And 60s.
Gosh, you're a little time traveller,
Look at
Joe.
me go.
I don't know how he does it. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us.
No worries. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Thanks for your questions.
Yes, I was going to say the same. Thanks for all your questions. Have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves. Bye. See you next week.